A long time ago, he took millions of breaths away, hyping Cyberpunk beyond all expectations, but Cyberpunk's launch took our breath away in a much different way, unfortunately. The game in that state made me feel like this was just going to be another apology letter forever until the anime update came out alongside the show and basically fixed the game, adding a ton of cool Easter eggs to go find around the city, which I've always loved exploring Night City. I think it's probably one of my favorite game cities, if not my favorite game city that I've ever played in. So searching for the cool iconic anime stuff made it even better, to the point that I made my entire build around Rebecca's shotgun guts. And then when I got David's jacket, I was just like on the moon. I thought that was so sick, and it really made me feel like they still cared about it. That update fixed a lot of problems with the game, but it still had probably one of the worst reputations of all time, and people refused to believe it did anything, even though it was really good. It got exponentially better, but it did still feel incomplete without mods. So seeing them go all out for update 2.0 and bringing the game back from the dead is something I never thought I would see. They made it look, perform, and feel like they promised it would in 2020. It's just a shame they did it in 2023. But I guess it's better late than never with most games nowadays, because not only did this update really smooth out a lot of the rough edges the game had, it also took away the reliance on mods. I still do miss a few of the mods I used to use, but I wouldn't say you need them for a complete experience anymore. But don't get me wrong, there's still some hangups. I watched this epic showdown for a full 4 minutes before the finale and the car blew up, but it wouldn't be the Cyberpunk we know and love with a little of this nonsense. And after seeing these Giga Chads battle it out in the streets, I decided I wanted to see all the new changes in AI improvements, so it was time to fight the new MaxTac. And even on the hardest difficulty, I still managed to make myself an unkillable monster by completely breaking the game. So I'll post a full build video tomorrow, because everything the game could possibly throw at me, I ran over like it was nothing. But it's not like a bad nothing. The new Cyberpunk police make it feel like GTA, and just being able to build your character to this ridiculously broken state is what I like in games like this. Like, once you're max level, you should be able to be ridiculously broken. Like, after watching the show, seeing the cyber psychos, that's exactly what I set out to be, and I got that fantasy. And when the police start zerging you, it's just insanely fun to go full cyber psycho RP on them. And when you combine all the new perks, weapons, and items, it really starts making you feel like your character is finally complete. Basically everything I dreamed the character could be after watching the anime. But I will say, I do wish you could mod your character a little bit more to look and be more robotic or more human, whatever you wanted it to be, kind of like a lot of the NPCs or characters you see in the game. But I'm at least happy they moved the armor off the cosmetic items and put it all into cyberware. It just made more sense from like a lore or RP perspective to me. Like, it made it more immersive, more than anything for me at least. And with the reworked Dogtown, I really think, in my opinion, Phantom Liberty is the chef's kiss Cyberpunk deserved. And I'm really happy I finally got to play the game I dreamed Cyberpunk would be. The new story intro was just insanely cool, and seeing Idris in game was just fucking awesome. Like, they look almost identical. I think they did such a good job.
Just don't forget.
All the amazing people they get together for this game to bring the world to life is truly the most breathtaking part about it. Because when I compare the character RPG elements to Starfield, like I just finished playing Starfield the other week, all the characters in that game, like all the NPCs, feel like broken lizard people 99% of the time, with their bug eyes and death stare expressions that if I don't do exactly what they wanted me to, they just straight hate me. Like, there is no in between. So that kind of removed me from the game more than anything. And don't get me wrong, I don't hate Starfield. I'm not in the Starfield bad bandwagon. I just don't think it's a good game. It's just straight average. And I think in the future it'll be like Skyrim, where it just gets modded, and then it's just insanely cool and fun to play. So probably go back to it in like a year or two. But what it showed to me was that CDPR really cared about bringing the game to life, even with the disaster of the launch they had. All the characters really try to drag you in and immerse you in the world.
Wake the fuck up, samurai. We have a city to burn.
Even the memes behind the people that will do anything to get in make it even better. But it's not just anyone can get into Cyberpunk, as we've learned, and even less get into the new Dogtown, or really even want to go from like the lore. But after exploring it and driving around, I really found myself finally feeling like I have the complete game. And I'm not going to deep dive the story, even though I know a lot of people are torn on the new endings. I ended up liking the one I got, but I'll just talk about some of the new stuff and early things they throw you into. Like, the spider mech is one of the first things you deal with, and it starts you off with a bang, making the story feel really epic, like you're doing something really big, and all the things they updated helped keep you immersed in it. So the driving was the first thing that stood out to me, and when I checked the new cars out and saw the armored truck that has machine guns and rockets, it had to be the first thing I bought. The drive-bys with this thing are amazing, and I wanted to see how far I could take it against MaxTac. I just didn't expect it to go so well. It can eat so much damage with some of the new vehicle perks and just destroys everything in front of you. It was honestly some of the most fun I had since like driving a tank in an old GTA, and I'm really happy this was the first car I bought with the fixer discount that you get from doing the new car delivery missions that just randomly spawn in. And I think these are probably my second favorite missions to do, just because I like driving around Night City and vibing, but I also found better loot missions that are like one-time dungeons with lots of elites in them. I just wish there was more of these all over the map, because every single one of them that I did was insanely cool. I think my favorite one was where I had to fight the robot army. It was basically like taking on the Terminator and his boys. I had no idea what was happening, and I don't know why, but I think that's the part that made me fall back in love with Cyberpunk all over again, where that one individual moment where I had to fight the room full of robots, something in there just clicked with me. And just to compare the difficulty, I think the dungeons are a little easier than MaxTac, because with all the police, they can just scale out of control. I also did my entire playthrough on very hard because my build was so strong, and if you've been here for a while, you know I just love making broken builds. The real big selling point and key thing about these, I guess I'm just going to keep calling them dungeons, was all the loot. There's so many legendaries, and the final cache makes you feel like you earned something for clearing it out, and I really love that. And the new Relic skill tree really rounded out almost every single build to be way better at fighting everything. The new buffs they give are completely ridiculous, but I think the most noticeable one is the vulnerable point damage. Even on the hardest difficulty, this lets you pretty much delete everything on your screen as long as you keep hitting that little box. Plus, some of the new items after you upgrade them have crazy scaling, letting you make a completely broken build for whatever your playstyle is, giving you a really strong like power fantasy, especially if you want to be a cyber psycho. But there are a few negatives, and probably the most annoying thing in the entire game for me is jumping or falling off. Literally anything feels terrible. If I buy super robot legs, I should be able to handle more than a 3-meter ledge drop without my legs breaking. And even though T-posing with the hammer if you jump from a little too high is hilarious, it's supposed to scale with speed and fall damage, so that really sucks. But the biggest negative for me is that with them relaunching the game, they still canceled multiplayer and haven't even whispered that it would ever be coming to the game. So with all this hype and all this work, you'd think one of the things people wanted the most would be uncanceled, considering it was mentioned in the original game credits. Being able to play this with friends would just make the experience so much better across the board, and making more persistent events across the map would have gone a long way in keeping the world alive, and it's something I thought they would do with Phantom Liberty, but maybe that's the next update, or I guess the next game, because this is the last DLC for Cyberpunk, so this is the complete game. This is all it will ever be. But maybe this is just the beginning and framework for something we've never even imagined. At least that's what I want to think it is for now, so I hope they learned their lesson with the first launch when they eventually release the sequel, because when I compare this game to release, it's nothing but breathtaking at this point. So if you were on the fence about picking it up, I think it's worth it, and I'm happy to recommend it, but I know everyone's had their ups and downs with the game over the years, so I'd love to know your story and experience with Cyberpunk. I think everyone always has an interesting one to tell if they've invested themselves in it at all. That's going to be all for now. I hope you all have a great night.